introduce yourself in the way you are most comfortable with.
I'm Kemi. I grew up in Nigeria. Most of my formative years I spent in Nigeria, and then I moved to the US, and I currently am in software engineering. But that is just, I feel like that's just one aspect of me. Like I tend to think of myself as like, I'm like, I have a lot of interest, and I love to engage in a lot of like other artsy things. So sometimes when I'll meet people and they ask me, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, like it's very difficult or unusual for me to say, "Oh, I'm a software engineer," because unlike you, who I feel like you embody your profession, and it's like such a big part of you and like of your soul, not just like something that is money earning. For me, it's kind of separate. So sometimes I'll meet people and oh yeah, I'm a dancer, even though I'm not like a professional dancer. I just like try to play with them, because the question of what do you do, sometimes I feel like it's very limiting. At least for me, like I think there's so much richness to people's character many times, or people's lives, than what they do. But for the purpose of this interview, I'm a software engineer, I'm a dancer, I'm a singer, I'm a conversationalist. I like to talk about things. I'm a therapist sometimes, but none of these are like paid jobs. The only one where I'm like professional is software engineer.
Can you tell us briefly about your career journey, how you found yourself in what you do, let's say from secondary school, in terms of how did you decide your subject, secondary school till the job you're doing, or till university days?
The kind of person that I was worked for the kind of educational system in Nigeria. Like I think people are very intelligent in different ways, but not necessarily recognized in a country like Nigeria, or like in certain institutions, because it's like so rigid and it works for like a certain kind of personality. But I think I was able to thrive in that. And I feel like it's a fortunate thing, because like many people have so much in them, but the system is not designed for them. So it's something I'm usually grateful for, because it did build my confidence in my abilities. Yeah, so I had that journey of like, okay, being an excellent student from primary school. And then I got to secondary school, and I was so fortunate to go to the Waterman College, because it really opened my eyes to a lot of different things. And one really beautiful aspect that I liked about it was it wasn't like the classic Nigerian schools where you had to like focus in the sciences or in humanities, because I had interest in everything. So like I loved the sciences. Like I was genuinely curious about biology and like physics. Like I would just like spend my time, like besides just passing the exam, like I was actually like, every time I would like take the lessons and learn something new, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Oh, like this is gravity. Oh, that is like, the physics stuff thing. But then I also enjoyed English, my English classes. Miss Flanagan, she was one of my, she's really up there for me too, because she was such a thoughtful and sensitive teacher. And I think she talked to me a lot, and I really enjoyed that. Like a lot of adults did not really engage with students, and I feel like there were very few teachers. Like you were one of those. Miss Flanagan was also one of those for me, and I think Mr. Oniide as well. Like there were certain teachers that they just saw you, like they felt seen in their class. But yeah, so there was that kind of. So I also loved English. I loved like I really enjoyed. I used to write poems that I kept just for myself, not for anything. So I loved that too. And I also loved art. Like I was a very committed student in your class as well. So I was weirdly like I've always been interested in multiple topics, and that saw me through to my adult life. And I think so even the kind of school that I chose in the US was a liberal arts school. And one of the reasons I chose it, besides the fact that they were giving me a really good scholarship was that it allowed me, so they had this open curriculum thing that allowed you to like explore and like form your own curriculum, which in theory, it was great. It was such a rigorous curriculum. I went to Brown University, and it's like, it was such a rigorous curriculum, like very intense, that I don't think I had that opportunity to really explore. But the idea really like attracted me a lot. So yeah, I when I got to Brown, because I felt like I could do many things, it was very difficult for me to decide what I wanted to do. Because I felt like I could, if I put my heart to anything, and I think that goes for many people, but we just don't always have the confidence in that space. So I was a very confused undergrad for like the first 2 years in university. I was very confused, and I took like different classes. I went in wanting to do chemical engineering. I actually applied into the engineering school. And sometimes I'm like, maybe it helped me. It helped my application because like I was a woman and I was wanting to do engineering, so it probably helped the diversity. But then I got there and I'm like, I don't think I want to do engineering.
So
and then I tried.
You were allowed to change?
Yeah, we didn't have to decide until the second year, which was also great.
Wow. Great.
Yeah. I continued painting. I took painting classes. I took dance classes. But I knew I did not want to be poor. And I think also just growing up in like a very patriarchal environment and seeing what women went through, another thing I had in mind was I did not want, like, not just I didn't want to be poor, it was also like I didn't want to depend on someone else, like my dad or like my husband. So I knew that I wanted a career that was like financially secure. And so there was always that at the back of my mind. So when I would try out math, I enjoyed math, but I was like, where would this get me to? And then I happened to try computer science, and I really, like, I remember the joy I felt when I first wrote my first program and like got something to work on a computer. It was just such a joyful experience. Like, oh my God, this is what I'm going to do. And it's also so happened that it's a financially secure career, at least at the time and until now. But I think things change. Things are always changing. So that was one of the. So those were the kind of like factors that came into me deciding to go into software engineering. And I dealt a lot with imposter syndrome.
Say that again.
Imposter syndrome.
Okay. Continue.
Where it's like I felt, because in this field and also at Brown, like, so I had grown up, being the smartest person, relatively smart, one of the smartest person in the class. And then I came to this school where everybody in the school, or most of the people in the school, were all the smartest people from everywhere. Right? So I think that changed. One, there are two things that did to me. One, I think I started to place so much emphasis on that being smart, and like it opened up my eyes to like other forms of being, like other attributes of being a human being beyond just like being academically smart, like being able to connect with people, like being able to empathize with people. Those are other important qualities, like being and it also opened my mind to different forms of intelligence. Like there's academic intelligence, there's like musical intelligence, there's there's some people who they feel the music, like they hear the music and they just like have this special intuition. Or there are people who had like very emotional intelligence, like high emotional intelligence. So I think so being in that kind of environment, I it was a good thing, because I was like, okay, no, there are other important things in life beyond just being book smart. But what I was going to was, in computer science, I felt like an imposter, where it's like I felt, because there were a lot of like, most of the people who were doing computer science, they've had computers all their lives. Like, these were kids who had like they were so used to like programming. They embodied the idea, so it was very easy for them. So something that I've dealt with in this career up until now, which most people are usually surprised when I say that, is feeling worthy of my position. Like, feeling like, it's that feeling of I'm not good enough in this position. And that comes in many things. Like, most of the places I've been since school, it's like, okay, I went to top school, then I went to like top jobs. I'm working with a lot of smart people, so there's that constant feeling of, am I even good enough for this? And I think, a lot of people, from the outside, it looks like, I know what I'm doing. But there's a constant question at the back of my head, what are you even doing? Like, are you even are you even good enough? But so that's something that I've dealt with.
Can you tell us maybe a funny childhood experience that you had?
It sounds like it's coming from a classic Nigerian movie. Okay. Like a Yoruba movie, actually. But before, I think when we used to live in Obudu, my family and I, and then we moved to Ikorodu, like when I was like 10 or something. And Ikorodu is like my hometown, so my dad's hometown. So the place we moved to, it was very, very like, it was barely occupied. It was like a village, like it felt at that time. Now it's
underdeveloped.
But it was like
a site, just developing.
So, so even our place was still a site. Like, it wasn't a lot of buildings. They were like still, it was just like people were just starting to find that place out. So it was still very much like a village. And then our house was right in front of what they call Orita Meta. So like the T junction, right? And if you're familiar with like Yoruba culture, you know that there is like, people put sacrifices, like those meal sacrifices for their gods in front of the Orita Meta, right? So we had that issue where almost every day there was like they call it Ebo, there was a new sacrifice. And in front of, not directly in front of the house, but like, we always had to like pass by it, because our house was like right at that T junction. So that always happened, right? And then one time, my mom, my dad hadn't come home for like a long he hadn't arrived that day, and it was already like 12 midnight. So my mom was like, getting angsty, and she's just like, so we're just like, just pacing around, and then we went out of the compound, and we're just standing by the gate. And so this place, it's like, when they say Oda, like, it's very, how do you describe Oda? Like, it was very empty, right? Like, the area is very empty.
Quiet, so nobody.
So and so you can imagine that kind of place, when you say something at night, like, it echoes back to you. So it had this strong reverberation, like when you say something at night, or even sometimes in the afternoon. I remember sometimes you shout and like you hear the echo. So my mom and I and my brother were just like staying outside of the compound, and then these people came with their car, like it was like they were driving the car, and then it became obvious, so they were like pacing. They couldn't see us because like it was in the night, it was
They
dark.
didn't expect anybody to be outside at that time.
Yeah, exactly. So they then tried to like bring out their airboard. They had sacrifice in the car. It was obvious because they were like pacing around and they were going to like drop something. And then my mom was just like, I don't know, I don't even know what she was thinking, but she was just like having fun, and she was like, Beregbe, which means like
Bend down and pick it.
Yes, went down and pick it, and then the sound like reverberated, and they just like screeched, like they just picked, like you could hear the car just like pick it back up, and they just like carried it and picked it back out. That, oh my God, the people that are after them even followed them. But yeah, I hope the person is not watching this YouTube video now. But yeah, they must have thought they had like this supernatural experience.
Wow. Now I can come to terms with what you said. It's like what could happen in a Yoruba movie or a Nollywood movie. Yeah, I think I understand it better now. Wow. Interesting. Interesting. Wow. I'm trying to visualize that kind of a scene as you're talking, you know. I thought they would be bold enough and just drop this.
Like Nibo, they were like, no way. Like they thought, oh, this was their demons after them.
Your 3 values or virtues. Okay, it could be values, it could be virtues that you admire most in people.
I won't necessarily say I'm an open book, but like I admire honesty. Like I vibe with people who are honest.
Let your yes be yes and your no be no.
Yeah. So honesty is one big part. I really admire people who are self-aware. I admire people who are self-aware a lot, like who are able to see themselves and are honest with it, like in tune with their flaws. I like people who are curious-minded.
What is that one food that you can eat several times?
I loved beans, plantain beans. Like there's this particular type that my mom makes where it's like beans and then she puts the plantain towards the end and then mashes it together. Oh my God. It's like, I still make it. Like it's my go-to meal now. Like if I want to make something that I know, okay, I'm going to need to be eating it for the next few days, it's plantain beans. Plantain beans is like always sure. Yeah, plantain beans.
Okay, what are your 3 motivations? 3 major motivations in life?
Our elasticity as human beings, the fact that we can transform, we can evolve, like the possibility of that keeps me motivated. The possibility that I can become better at this thing, it keeps me motivated. Another thing that keeps me motivated is the fact that I don't know many things. Like if I ever got to a point where I felt like I've learned all the skills in the world, which I don't think anybody ever gets to, or like, oh, I've learned everything there is about the world. Like, yeah, I don't know what else would be there to live for if I got to a point where I knew it all. So the unknown keeps me motivated. Another thing is connection to nature, connection to music, connection to everything. Just like being able to being able to get to this plane where we are one is like something that keeps me motivated. And that's something I get a lot from dancing. I do a lot of partner dancing. So that usually like gives me this rush, like when not really a rush, but just like this appreciation for life and possibilities, when yeah, we're completely different, but then we get to a point where we're like one, like we're together in for that like space of 10 minutes of dance, or like that space in time, we were one. Yeah, I think. And sometimes it's from conversations as well. It's from experiencing things together.
Best 3 decisions you've made?
So one will be going for a Vipassana meditation course. From doing it, I gained so much. Like I gained so much and learned so much about myself and about life. And I think I gained like a really powerful tool to deal with life. Yeah. The second one, which I'm not necessarily endorsing from this interview, but the second one was to quit my job last year. So last year in August, I don't necessarily advise anyone to do this, but in my situation, it was a great decision. But I quit my job without having another one in mind. I just got to a point where I needed to remove myself from like just doing the next thing, because I feel like since primary school, it's just okay. After primary 1, you go to primary 2. From primary 6, you go to secondary school, you go to university, you do A levels. So that was like my life. And then right after university, which was like a lot to take in, coming to the US and like coming to that kind of rigorous university, there was no break. It was just like continue on to the next job, so I quit my job because I got to a point after 4 years working at Adobe as a software engineer, where I was like, I needed some space out of this this cycle of like, being productive and being a person in this like modern world where you have to keep doing something and getting paid for it, or getting doing something for an ambition, for like a goal in mind. And I just wanted to take myself out of that and really evaluate my life. So I quit my job, and it was scary initially. The first week I was like, oh, like it felt very strange. And yeah, it was also such a valuable time, like to know that I can exist in a different form that is not just like a money-making productive human being. To know that I can relax in chaos. I can relax in not having my life planned out. Yeah, so that was a great decision. The third one, I think, will be cutting my hair.
Okay.
Just I think during the pandemic, so I used to have dreadlocks. I've had like different phases of hair. But then in the pandemic, so my dreadlocks were already like very long, and when I would wash it, it was like heavy. And there were just so much decisions that came around like hair. For us women, it's like there's just so much planning, like planning out when I'm going to wash the hair, to wash it before I work out, or wash it, oh no, I have to, wash it before this event, so it's like, looking clean. It was just too much and then I went completely bald, like Mr. Iroye bald. Like in the middle of the pandemic.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I did.
So what 5 items would you take with you if you are asked, you're going somewhere for, let's say, a week, and you're only allowed to take 5 things, only 5 things, excluding the clothes you're wearing. I mean, you're wearing clothes, but you can only take 5 things with you into that place. The essence of this is, what are the 5 most important items to you? Does that make sense now?
Yeah, yeah.
If I have this, I'll feel okay.
So water is very important to me. Like being able to drink water. That's one big one. It will be important to brush my teeth. Oh yeah, I can take my iPad and download books on it. So water, toothbrush, toothpaste, iPad, a blanket.
A blanket.
Yeah, because I was thinking, like a desert might get really cold at night.
Can you list the 5 again? Okay.
Okay, so it's water.
Okay.
Toothbrush.
Okay.
Toothpaste.
Okay.
I'm kind of cheating there because I'm separating them out.
Okay.
iPad.
Okay.
With like books downloaded on it. Fully charged. I'll make sure it's fully charged too. And a blanket.
Are there things you like to correct in your past? If there are, what 2 things would that be? If you have the power to go back into your past and correct, what 2 things would be on your list?
I hardly look at things that way. Because I feel like there's a lot of these things I've experienced that have like my mistakes or failures are like the opportunity for growth. Like they're part of my character development. Yeah, because if you took those things out, you won't even have the insight now to even say you want to take it out.
Your top 3 movies or books, or movies and books?
2 books that are already coming to mind. Okay, so one that I read in college, it was called Guide to Compassionate Living. And that book, oh my God, and so the book title is Guide to Compassionate Living, and it just said start where you are. And it was just about the big takeaway from the book was that in order to be compassionate to other people, you need to first embrace and be compassionate towards yourself. Because you can't be kind to people if you are not kind to yourself in the first place. If you have like that if you haven't accepted yourself, you can't accept other people. Another book is Sapiens by Yuval Harari. And it's about world history. So the history of human existence. Another book that I really, really enjoyed. This one I really enjoyed. As the other ones, I feel like they impacted me. This one I really enjoyed just reading. Is Helen Oyeyemi. What's not yours, it's not yours.
Okay.
And I think she's just like this very imaginative writer where she creates, like, reading that book, it felt like I entered someone's crazy brain and just saw how like their brain can like create new worlds and use language to just like create new worlds, and they use language to bring you into that world that they have created in their head.
If we're not into your current career as a software engineer, what career would it have been?
If there are no like financial constraints or responsibilities, I'll probably do something creative, something in the arts. Something that I do right now regularly that I really enjoy is dance.
What would be your top 3 counsels to young people?
First thing would probably be for them to be open and to try new things as they find themselves. I think it's important to not lock yourself into one thing in life without having tried other possibilities. Where real failure comes in is when you haven't taken anything away from an experience. So I think maybe what I'll tell young people is to like constantly not overdo it to the point that you're not enjoying life, but like constantly evaluate yourself. Like constantly ask yourself, like, what is the lesson from this? When something feels like, oh, this is impossible, or oh, why has God put me in this situation, or oh, why am I the one facing this thing? Like, look at it from this level of, oh, interesting, God has given me a new thing to learn. What can I learn from this experience? Like, look at those experiences, look at your setbacks as a learning opportunity, basically. So I think that would be my second one. Third one, I will say, is to just enjoy life, really. Like, at the end of the day, yeah, like, it's really a blessing to be here, to be alive, to have consciousness,